Okay, what we're looking at here is the blank, empty, open field. It's a 4x3 game table. And what we're going to be doing is we're going to be setting up as usual, as much of a modular system as we can. What does that mean? Modular means pieces that fit together in various ways with either as few pieces as possible or with as much adaptability as possible, essentially. That's essentially what it means. So adaptability. They're modular, they fit together, or they come apart, or in some way they're like a puzzle. It's not so just haberdashery. There is some method to the way things are done. Ergo, an example would be as soon as I get to it, a hill like this with a hill like this on top. Why would you want this? This would be a very tall obstruction, and essentially it comprises the hexagon. Let's do this. Let's get this thing properly situated. It comprises the hexagon shape, but it has on top of it a non-hexagon related hill shape that is basically just foam with sloped cut into it, cliff-like with flocking. We just bought these online. But here's the point. The underlying structure is a hexagon grid shape, which conforms to the hexagon grid, but then there's the shape placed on top. And why would we do that? Because in certain eras, science fiction, for instance, you may have planets that have these really tall hills like this. You want to have the base being hexagon, but the extra hill on top, the extra elevation, does not necessarily have to conform because it is itself another hex. It's just that it's an odd shape. So you may have a game where the pieces are running around, going uphill one level, and then just this item becomes just another level. So, taking that into consideration, you can have a ridge, a triangle type shape, a very large oval shape, and even larger. This would be the maximum size. Why is this the maximum size? Because this is the maximum size that fits the drawer of the unit that we're using to take to conventions. But clearly, you could have a game table completely cut with elevations on top of elevations. But that wouldn't be easy to transport. You'd have to take care in transporting this. Something like this, it just so happens, fits exactly the drawer dimensions of the plastic storage unit on wheels that we're using to transport things. But this is what I'm showing. This is an example of a large hill, a somewhat smaller hill, and then the triangle hill. Now, would we have this kind of a configuration? No, because it's not clean. They're not meant to be, at least these two pieces are not meant to be stacked on each other, so we won't stack those. But certainly these can be, so we do. We match up the hexagons if we can, if that is even possible. I don't know if it is. They may not. All right. So the pieces don't exactly fit together, but as you can see, at least they conform to some of the hexagons, and that's doable. In other words, you would count, a person would count, okay, 1, 2, and then 3 getting up on top, 4. Can't stop at 3 because there's no space there, so you'd have to be able to have 4 movement to get up here. 3 you'd get here, and 3 you'd get here, but around the rest of this you can't. You'd better get up there. So that's just another example. So you could take this off, and then you could put this one on, and all different other kinds of configurations. You could have like that, and then like this. But the point is that the elevations are usable in one game, and the base elevation is usable in another game. So you could have like this and like this. Not there per se. This actually might be like this. Like that. That's a pretty big hill with no intervening level. So you'd better be able to go 1, 2 and get up there, or else you're not going to be able to get up on the top of the hill. You just can't do it. That's all there is to it. You can't do it. If the space isn't provided, then it's too steep. You have to get right up on top, or you're at the bottom. That's what's in the implication of the shape is. And then this guy here, same thing. You can say, okay, well, there is a space there for a battle mech, and there's one here, and there's a space here and here and here, so that's possible, and here and here. Okay, so that's pretty good. And here's the same thing. You could, as long as your mech can have space, it's legal, and he can be there. So this is the situation that we may be presented with. So here is our game table. Now, what happens when the mechanized game is over, or the science fiction battle mech game is over? We'll take off these top layers and leave the other hills as they are. So it becomes another era. Horse and musket, ancients, what have you. Maybe space these out a little bit. Well, you never want to have, you never want to have the middle of the game table being so blah. And you never, also, at the counterpoint to that, you never want to have a hill stuck in the middle, because that just becomes the focal point. Now everyone's fighting for that because it's in the middle of the game table. So how do you do this? Well, you kind of have to make an extension like that, for instance. That's an example. Okay, this is kind of a good example. You've now taken the center of the table and you've put the hill as a kind of a ridge line. Okay, or you've done this and you've got these confined valleys. So that's the kind of situation, or the reverse. So you can see that that could be really interesting. And then again, for the next era, if you're going to use the game table as it is, just pull off those larger elevations and you've got your layout. You could even do it just like that. Put those hills to the extreme, right? Do it like that. Now again, you could do the opposite. All right, like this. Or you could have a die roll that says, okay, you know, change it like this. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, right? You could just die roll it. So the point is, when you pick these off, the game table for the Ancients game, if you're going to play Ancients after science fiction, it's going to look like this. That might be kind of complicated for an Ancients game. We never know. So you put the rest of the terrain down. It could be interesting, right? Could very well be a very interesting situation. Right? Pretty cool. Maybe we'll just go with that. And there's our game table. And then, of course, you know, you put your battle mess out there and things start to take shape. Things start to look different.